great. My name is Roy Heatherly. I'm President and CEO of the Monroe Chamber of Commerce, and it is a beautiful day in Monroe, West Monroe, Sterlington, Richwood, and all over Ouachita Parish. I hope you've had the opportunity to finish your lunch. If you haven't, if you could just pause a minute, I'm going to call Reverend Ike Bird, Senior Pastor at Mount Zion Baptist Church, former Monroe Chamber Board member, and Director of this fine Civic Center, to come up and lead us in an invocation and then our pledge. So if everybody could stand up, please.
Let's pray. Gracious and eternal God, our Father, Lord, how excellent is your name in all of the earth. And how we do thank and praise you, God, for the privilege of being able to be loved by you and to serve you. And so now as we come today, God, we just thank you for this gathering. We thank you for this day. I pray now that you would bless, God, our governor, and I pray for his family and his staff as they come. I pray for all elected officials, oh God, those who are on the local level, state level, and even those on our national level, that you would bless them and their families likewise. And bless the chamber, bless Roy Heatherly as he continues to give leadership to this chamber and all of the businesses that are supported. I pray that you would bless now the staff of the Civic Center, and thank you for all of their work. And then, God, I pray that you will bless the food that we eat, that it might nourish and strengthen our bodies. God, we'll give you all praise, honor, and glory. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Bird. Now I'm going to begin today's activities by introducing the individuals seated at the head table. Beginning, you just met Pastor Bird. Beginning at my left, your right, Pastor Bird, Senior Pastor, Mount Zion Baptist Church. Next to Pastor Bird, Lisa Miller, Vice President for Enrollment Management and University Relations at our University of Louisiana at Monroe. Next to her, Dr. John Lipka, Associate Dean for Simulation for VCOM Louisiana. Next to him is Dr. Randy Esters, Chancellor at Louisiana Delta Community College. Next to him is Jennifer Zimmerman, the 2025 Chair of the West Monroe, West Ouachita Chamber of Commerce and Benefits Consultant for Gallagher. Next to her is Ami Kane, the 2025 Board Chair for the Monroe Chamber of Commerce and Regional Vice President of Mission Integration and Formation for St. Francis Health and St. Dominic Health. To my right, your left, the Honorable Friday Ellis, Mayor of the great city of Monroe. Next to him, the Honorable Stacy Mitchell, Mayor of the great city of West Monroe. Next to her, the Honorable Matt Talbert, Mayor of the great town of Sterlington. And next to Matt, the Honorable Gerald Brown, Mayor of the great town of Richwood. Next to Mayor Brown, the Honorable Shane Smiley, President of the Ouachita Parish Police Jury, which is also great. Please give it up for them, please. I would like to call your attention to the screen. Those are all our sponsors. If you get a chance, thank them very much. And I'd like to recognize all the elected officials who are here today, as well as First Lady Sharon Landry. And it's always a beautiful day when the First Lady is able to join us. So thank you for being here. At this time, At this time, I'd like to call on Ami Kane to introduce our speaker. Ami?
And what a wonderful crowd here today. It is my pleasure and honor to introduce our governor, Jeff Landry. Jeff Landry's love for our state and his passion for helping others is identified by his Louisiana roots. Jeff grew up in a small town in St. Martinville where his mother was a school teacher and his parents took him to church every day. Later, Jeff learned that the hard value of work in the sugarcane fields then took him to be proudly joining the National Guard, serving in Operation Desert Storm. After returning home, Jeff worked as a police officer and sheriff's deputy, and later started a successful business and went on to law school. As a public servant, both in the U.S. Congressman, as a U.S. Congressman and also Attorney General of Louisiana, Jeff Landry has shown strength and courage, fighting for the common sense values and bringing people together to deliver great solutions. On October 14th, 2023, Jeff was elected to become the 57th governor of Louisiana, an historic primary victory. And on January 8th, 2024, he assumed his office. As governor, he is not afraid to make changes necessary to turn Louisiana around, deliver results, and fight for the working families. Jeff resides in Broussard with his wife Sharon and their son JT. And it is our honor and pleasure to have him here today. So please join me in welcoming our governor, Jeff Landry.
How are y'all doing today? You know, I was thinking I might have y'all start getting me a big number sign for the number of times I'm going to come here and visit, because a lot of people have said that governors don't take an opportunity to come up to North Louisiana often. It seems like at least once a month I'm up here, and I enjoy it, and so maybe we'll just start doing like a number, and I want to break a record. We'll see how many other times. I do that with Moon on his show. You know, he claims that other governors wouldn't go on his show again and again, and so I made him start keeping track, and he's lost track. We've been on it so many times, but certainly it's great to be here today with so many familiar faces. What a large crowd we have, and you know, I tell you, it's amazing because we find ourselves, I believe, at a pivotal moment, not only in Louisiana but in our country. I mean, President Trump is just on a change agent. You know, he is completely focused on reshaping Washington, and the one goal that he has, or his focus, is really on making America and Americans first. He wants America to be first, and he's putting Americans first. And you know, he's tapped Elon Musk, as you all know, to run his Doge program. And I want you to know we're doing the same thing here at the state level as well, and it's nothing new. I mean, I don't want y'all to tell him. In fact, I'm going to say this, and if y'all run into the president, please don't tell him that I said this, because he likes to always be first. And I'll tell him that y'all must have misunderstood me. But you know, back when I was in Congress, I gave back over $180,000 of my congressional member resource account to the United States Treasury to help pay off the debt. And I'm going to tell you, it was the most bruising experience I ever had, trying to convince the Speaker of the House, John Boehner, to let me give the money back. He was like, well, we don't have a process to give money back. I'm like, that's the problem. You don't have a process. And it wasn't only me, but there were many other. I was able to get about 10 other members of Congress at the time to find ways under which we could save in our own accounts to give money back. So we proved that we could do it in Congress. And then again, when y'all elected me to the Attorney General spot, if you remember, we went into that term some 9 years ago with the state into a fiscal cliff. I know we got some of our great legislators here today. I don't know how many of those were there at that time, but it was not a very pleasurable opportunity or opportune time for us. And I can promise you, it really wasn't for me, because you know the governor didn't quite like me at the time. It didn't take me long to sue him on some things that he was doing which he shouldn't have done, which only heightened my need as the Attorney General to really tighten the belt at the Department of Justice, because I knew that we would be cut disproportionately. And so at the time, I had this great friend of mine who had been very successful in business, who always says that he's cheap. He's really not cheap, he's just efficient. And he said, I want to cut some weight. So he was kind of like the Elon Musk before Elon Musk was cool doing the Doge program. And we ran our own fiscal responsibility project. And in 1 year, we recognized several $1 million worth of savings. And of course, you know, I think it was $2 or $3 million that he found right away of savings, which is big when you think about the budget at the time. The AG's budget might have been $60 million. So So that was real savings at that time, and it was easy for him to do. And we kept that project running the whole time that I was the Attorney General. And the dirty little secret was that throughout that entire fiscal cliff problem, we gave our employees raises again and again and again, using money that we challenged them to save. Now, in the AG's office, we didn't have any classified civil service. They were all unclassified. And so it was easy to be able to help them manage themselves and to tell them that, hey, listen, if you show us how you can create efficiencies, we'll give it back to you. And they did it again and again by just empowering those civil servants. And I'll tell you, so when the president and Elon Musk started their Doge project, we said, well, I guess we should start our own. I call ours like Doge. We put a little accent on the E. And so I just brought Orlando, I brought Steve out of retirement. And look, I tell you, just the other day, with the hiring of a new OTS director, that's the Office of Technology and Services, her and Steve found $1 million worth of cell phone plans in one agency that had not been used in years. And it was being renewed again and again and again. And so they're getting their feet started. They're getting started in the process, and I think that you're going to see some great things come out of it. In fact, yesterday I signed an executive order which is going to prohibit all of our leases on property that the state leases on buildings not to be able to have the automatic renewal. So in other words, we told all of our cabinet and agency heads, you are not to allow an automatic renewal of those buildings until you do an actual audit of the facility and find out whether or not you need all that space, whether you need more space, and whether or not we can get a better deal. And you're going to see it in the next 30 days or so, because we've been nudging our cabinet secretaries to find out who is remote working and who is not. But we're getting ready to bring everybody back. I mean, we really are. It's time for everybody to come back to work in those offices. And so, look, I support the things that the president is doing. And I've had the great opportunity to work with him over the last couple of months. In fact, he appointed me to the Council of Governors, which I think is an unbelievable appointment, not only for myself, but for the people of Louisiana, which gives us an opportunity to be in Washington and speaking to cabinet secretaries and being in and out of the White House. And actually, I spoke to the president this morning over a breakfast call about something I'll tell you about later, and he was on just a roll. In fact, I wanted to say, Mr. President, I got to leave. I got to get up to Monroe. But look, he does. And the president loves Louisiana. He really, really does. And because Louisiana has been good to him. In fact, just last week, he sent 2 cabinet-level secretaries, which I don't know if anybody can tell me the last time there were 2 cabinet secretaries that came to Louisiana at the same time for the same reason, which was to go down to Plaquemines Parish to tour the Venture Global LNG facility down there. That, by the way, is the largest construction project going on in North America. I just want you to let that sink in a little bit, and we'll talk about that a little later on. You know, because I believe that whether it's from north to south or east to west, Louisiana is really starting to recognize that we have to be one Louisiana to move Louisiana forward and to do the things that make us a state that can compete in a new industrial South, and we can finally take our place and be proud to say, guess what, Louisiana is beating out Texas and Alabama and Georgia and Arkansas and Mississippi, and we stop being number one on all the bad lists and we start being number one on all of the good lists. Because we all know that for far too long, Louisiana has been entangled in this web of challenges. And whether it is from public safety to education to our economy, those are things that have frustrated you all. And that is why, almost 2 years ago, I guess start getting lost in the time, but it's been 2 years since we've been on the campaign trail. But you all, through the frustration of recognizing that web of entanglement, y'all said, you know what, we're going to send some new people to Baton Rouge. Not only myself, but you sent some great people to Baton Rouge in the legislature. You got some great senators and representatives. I know many of them are here today. And of course, if I start calling them out, and I might, and then I'm going to forget one, and I'm going to get in trouble. But really and truly, y'all entrusted them and us to institute change in Louisiana. And I want you to know that I'm here to report to you that change is happening. And it is happening right here in North Louisiana as well. Because here's what we did. Working with those great men and women that you sent to Baton Rouge, and believe you me, they're looking fresh. I mean, Glenn and Stuart and Gabe, look, they're really here to find out if I'm sending them into a special session. No plans. But we did. We worked them, believe you me, we worked them so much. We worked them more last year than I think some legislators had worked in 4 years. But through 3 special sessions and a regular session, we have begun to reverse decades of setbacks and set this state on an absolute new course for prosperity. Not just one where we start to join our southern states in economic progress, but one in which I believe Louisiana can lead in. And the way we did it, and y'all have heard me talk about this before, but I want to remind you about the work that we did. The first thing we set about in the first special session was addressing public safety and crime. And we focused on victims' rights rather than criminals' rights. And we focused on supporting police officers and law enforcement. That's kind of a novel idea, right? I mean, really and truly, those are the people who put on a uniform each and every day or at night, leave their families, kiss their wife and their children, and go out and do a pretty dangerous job. And so the fact that we would be out there not supporting them only erodes the criminal justice system at the very foundation. And so we focused on our law enforcement officers, and we focused on changing the sentences of those that are convicted in the criminal justice system. Because under the prior Criminal Justice Reinvestment Act, you couldn't calculate the time. I mean, even the Department of Corrections couldn't even calculate the time. In fact, the state of Louisiana has been brought in like 12 or 16 lawsuits just because we couldn't calculate the time. Some people were saying that we kept them longer than we should have. And so we eliminated that by eliminating parole, and we mimicked our sentencing on the federal system, where you're going to serve 75% of your time. There's no more good time. I mean, you don't go to jail because you're good. You go to jail because you were bad. You ever see that again and again. And then we corrected the juvenile age, because we have a problem with juvenile crime in this state. You can ask any chief of police or any sheriff out there. And I'm going to tell you this, the passage of Amendment 3, there is 4 amendments on the ballot. And Amendment 3 deals with our ability to curb juvenile crime, and I would urge you to support it. We increased the penalties on fentanyl distribution and carjacking, and we did so much more. But we also didn't forget that a lot of times good people make bad decisions, and they deserve a second chance. I mean, there's no doubt that there should be some compassion in the criminal justice system, because some people make a bad decision and they deserve a second chance. And so we improved our drug court system, we strengthened our indigent defender board, and we did other things to help reduce the recidivism rate in our prisons. And the results are demonstrable. I mean, I know that you could probably turn on the TV and they talk about the success that we've had in New Orleans, but we've seen crime as a whole start to come down across the state. But we went into the city of New Orleans, which was one of the worst cities, not only in the country, but in the world. And within a short period of time, in less than 12 months, we have been able to drastically reduce the number of homicides, carjackings, and other violent crimes in that city. And what we've learned in that city, just so I want you to know, I want you to say, well, he's just interested in New Orleans. Believe you me, I'm not. But the lessons that we learned, the way I looked at it, and seriously, like if you can fix New Orleans, you can fix just about anything, right? Is that a fair statement? Okay. And so the lessons that we are learning down there we're getting ready to turn the corner on that, and we're getting ready to focus on the other cities around this state that are having the same types of problems, but using the lessons learned out of Troop NOLA in New Orleans and bringing that into not only our cities, not only our major cities in the state, but in the rural areas as well, because we're seeing too much violence in those areas as well. And I'll tell you, one of the reasons that we started in the city of New Orleans, and one of the reasons we're now able to take that to the next level here in other parts of the state, is because of President Trump, because of his cabinet secretaries, because of the people that he's appointing, because of the relationship between myself and people like Pam Bondi, like Kristi Noem, like Kash Patel. And I want you to know something. I owe a debt of gratitude to you all for those relationships, because had you not sent me into the Attorney General's seat, I would not have had those relationships. And believe you me, I don't take that for granted, and that's why we're going to leverage those relationships to be able to bring crime down. And I'll just give you a tidbit of what we want to do, because y'all saw it here in Monroe. The last time that President Trump was in the Oval Office, David Joseph was now the federal judge, but he was then the U.S. Attorney in the Western District, and we brought together, between him and I, we do commission some of the Attorney General's prosecutors to be able to take federal gun crimes into federal court. And we did a project here in Monroe, and you started to see violent crime reduce, because again, look, criminals know. I mean, penalties work. It's why I look and see all the women out here. How many of y'all have raised children? Okay, like, all of y'all got rules, right? And y'all got a mechanism to enforce those rules. And you do it because, guess what? When you enforce those rules, those kids have a tendency to be able to respond to that. And it's the same thing, and that's how the criminal justice system is supposed to work. And so we did that, and we're going to replicate that with a commitment from the Attorney General. And so, again, we are going to keep our eye on public safety, because it is at Maslow's hierarchy for making sure that you have a community that is thriving. You have to be safe. Everyone deserves to be safe. It doesn't matter where you live, what the size of your paycheck is, or the size of your house. You deserve to live in safety. And so we're making Louisiana safe again. And then in the regular session, we focused on education. And we passed some of the most significant educational reforms in the history of this state. And how do we do it? We did it by focusing on parents and teachers, another novel concept. It goes to show you how out of whack we are, right? Because we believe that parents are the most important voice in a child's education, and teachers are the most important person in the classroom in that child's education. And so we passed things like the education scholarships accounts, the ESAs, which we've had an unbelievable response to. And we did it very responsibly. We looked at what other states had did. We took lessons learned from there, and we built it in a method that we started. The first tranche is going to be for parents with kids with disabilities. And those at the highest poverty level, because no kid should be stuck in a failing school just based upon a zip code. And parents with kids with disabilities should not be denied a program that works for their child just because they live in a particular zip code. We ended the ACT mandate. And some people say, well, I can't believe we ended the ACT mandate. Well, let me tell you, you are looking at a person who did not want to take the ACT. Okay, like I'll just admit to y'all, like I did not want to go to college. My mother was beating me over the head. I took it in the 11th grade. I'm not going to tell you about the condition I was in that weekend. And just by the grace of God, made enough, did well enough on my scoring to be able to get into college later on. But here's what happens. Every time you force a kid like me to go take the ACT who doesn't want it, who may not be as blessed as I was, you then bring down the population in that school who are striving to take that and who are designed to go to college. And then we wonder why our rankings are so bad. So look, if you want to take the ACT, or if you are one of those parents like my mom and you beat the kid over the head until they go take the ACT, that's fine. But for those kids that are not designed to go to college, but that can make a great profession out there not having a college degree, why should we force them to do that? And then we put on that Let the Teachers Teach program, which, I mean, again, focusing on the teachers. We brought 30 teachers in. We said, hey, what are those things that we have done to add additional regulations or unfunded mandates or taking hours out of the classroom for you to abide by something, some regulation that we placed upon you. Because we want teachers in the classroom teaching, not being social workers. If we need social workers, we get social workers in a school. I said that on the campaign trail. We put that into action. And then how about this one? I want to see how many of y'all really appreciate this one. We took cell phones out of the classroom. I mean, my phone, where are the legislators? How many of y'all's phones rang at that? The parents were elated. My nephews and nieces were so mad at me. Uncle Jeff, why you took the phones? What am I going to do? You know, we started to roll back some of the discriminatory vaccine policies that we had during COVID-19. That placed you and your child in between, placed a school in between you and your child and your doctor. And then we did something. I mean, this is the most amazing thing to me. Here we are focused on how we're going to just improve our schools, and then Donnie Hart goes and passes this bill. It was not even on my radar. Okay, until it landed on my desk to sign. I said, we put the 10 Commandments back in school. This is great. They signed this. And I mean, the world went crazy. I mean, seriously. Like, think about this. We send kids to school, and each and every day, all of you who raised your hand, all of you mothers and then fathers as well out there, each and every day we teach our kids to be obedient, not to steal, not to lie, not to kill. And yet we deny them the right to see that spelled out in the 10 Commandments. I mean, just let that sink in for a minute. I mean, I can tell you this. Your child either learns the 10 Commandments or they're going to be studying the criminal code. It's that simple. And I believe we're going to, and I'm going to tell you, the people who call me to congratulate us more than any other person out there who called us were teachers who had been teaching in the system for 30 or 40 years, or who had retired and who had remembered when we had God in our schools. And they watched it, they watched an erosion of prayer and the 10 Commandments and the teaching of how this country became great and what natural law was all about. And they watched the erosion of it. And you know what else they watched? They watched the erosion of our schools. And so if you go back to that foundation, I can tell you, our educational system is going to be great. And so working with the legislature and with the superintendent, with Kay Brumley and them, I'm happy to tell you that right now, Louisiana has the highest test scores in a generation. In a generation. And look, we're not stopping. We got plenty more work to do, but our goal is simple. We want to ensure that every child in this state has an opportunity to reach their full potential, and we want them to be prepared for the jobs of tomorrow, while ensuring they can go to work today, while we work on opportunities that keep them here in Louisiana. Because isn't that what y'all sent us to Baton Rouge to do? To put in place policies that keep us from losing population. I mean, how many of y'all have been frustrated with the outward migration? Come on, let's see. Huh? That's okay. Are y'all awake? How many of y'all like people leaving the state of Louisiana? Okay, but then that's better. Well, let me tell you, this last year was the very first time in decades that the Census Bureau reported that 30,000 people came to Louisiana rather than left Louisiana. And so because I thought that those great legislators had just a little bit more juice in them, we brought them back in right before Thanksgiving. Boy, it was smiles. But we brought them back to focus on improving our economic opportunity. And we knew that we had to focus on our tax policy. We knew that our tax policy was complex and it was burdensome and it stifled economic growth again and again, because we would watch, like, how does Mississippi get an automotive plant? How does Alabama do so great? Why is Florida growing? You know, and we'd scratch our head, we tried. And one of the main components was our burdensome tax code. And guess what? Those legislators answered the call in a bipartisan fashion. They passed what is going to be the largest tax cut in the history of Louisiana, putting more money in your pocket. We repealed the franchise tax. We lowered the corporate income tax. And again, with strong bipartisan support, we are sending a critical amendment to the Constitution to you, to give you the choice, for you to answer whether or not the things that we're doing were exactly why you sent us there. And look, I get it. And I'm not going to pick on my friends in the Senate. You got some great senators here. We tried real hard last year to find a way to rewrite our outdated and burdensome Constitution. And we just could not get there. But I'm going to tell you what, they recognize that. And this amendment, Amendment 2, is 30% of the work that we wanted to do last year. And it is important. It is going to pave the way for us to continue to lower taxes and to continue to improve our economic environment. In fact, the Tax Foundation now ranks Louisiana as having one of the most competitive and lowest income taxes in America. And it only gets better if you're willing to go to the polls on March 29th and vote yes. Because again, voting yes is going to improve the business environment in this state. It's going to help us move Louisiana forward faster. Because y'all didn't send me to Baton Rouge to just like do nothing, right? Y'all sent me over there to get some things done. I mean, I like to think, look, and I tell you, honestly, if President Trump would have gotten elected a year before us, and he would have been moving as fast as he's moving now, and maybe we could have moved a little faster last year. The fellas in the legislature, I don't think we moved about as fast as we could. But I do not have to prove to you in this room that the things that they have done are paying off. And I told everyone that I visited with in North Louisiana when I was running for governor that we were going to bring economic opportunity to this state. And we worked clandestinely throughout as we worked on public safety, as we worked on educational reform, as we promised those executives that we were going to do tax reform. We worked on that meta project. And we were able in December to come here with them and announce the largest capital investment of a private company in the history of North Louisiana, right here. Are the meta folks here? Where y'all at? There we go. Y'all stand up. Y'all stand up. Seriously, like these people, I mean, Friday and I talked about it at that announcement. Because you grew up in Rayville. Yeah, huge, like say Monroe. And quite honestly, I tell you, I was a little jealous as Friday was talking to me about growing up in Rayville and in him understanding what was getting ready to happen in this part of the state. Because we have all seen our small towns and our rural parts of Louisiana suffer. And what those folks are getting ready to do here is going to be transformational. I mean, I'm telling you, you just have not been able to wrap your head around it yet. Trust me, okay? It is going to transform North Louisiana, the likes of which you have been asking for decade after decade after decade. You know, and look, all I can tell you is that right now they've got a $10 billion promise, and they run, I think they run 20 such data centers, but in talking to their boss, Mark Zuckerberg, he is committed to making this center the largest AI center in the world. And so if you think about that, so you go from the Meta project to just last week when I was down in Plaquemines Parish to announce Venture Global is going to add another $18 billion into Plaquemines Parish. I mean, think about that. That's $28 billion in 2 projects. I know some of the things that are getting ready to come up. I believe that before we close the books on 2025, the state of Louisiana could have somewhere between $35 to $50 billion worth of projects here in this state. But I don't say this lightly. That momentum only continues with your participation. Look, you send us to Baton Rouge and you tell us to go to work, and we go to work. But at the end of the day, it's now on you. It's now on you to make sure that you go out and vote for these amendments. Because we have placed the future of Louisiana in the hands of the people that it belongs in, and that is the citizens of this state. And let me just go through a couple of things that are in that amendment, because Amendment 2 is the linchpin to repealing some of the most burdensome tax code problems that have plagued our state. And it is going to give us an opportunity to further improve them. It not only fixes it today, but it gives us a roadmap to continue to fix it tomorrow. It lowers the income tax rate. It doubles the deduction for our senior citizens. It creates a limit on government spending, ensuring that our state government lives within its means. It merges and eliminates duplicative state savings accounts, streamlining the financial management and reducing waste. It preserves the homestead exemption. It preserves the religious exemptions currently in the Constitution. And let me just speak to that for a second, because I don't know, man, some of y'all may have heard. I mean, there may be some pastors in here that say, well, I've seen some rumbling that said that that's not so. Well, here's what I'm going to tell you. That's not true. That is absolutely not true. In fact, when we were writing this amendment, I went to the religious organization that probably has more property in this state than anyone else, and that's the Catholic Church. And I said, y'all write it. Why? Because as a lawyer, if I get the person who has the most amount of risk to write the rule, then I know that that's going to take care of everybody else. And so the language that is in the Constitution came from them. So believe you me, there is no way that you can make me believe that there is any religious organization that is in any type of peril under this amendment. It provides our teachers with a permanent pay raise by paying off the state retirement system. Look, yesterday I spoke on the North Shore, and Richard Nelson was there. And I got to tell you, Richard Nelson, our revenue secretary, is one of the smartest people I know. And he came to us, and I'm looking at Foy over there, and he's like, yeah, he's so smart, sometimes they don't want to talk to him. But he was able to figure out a way under which, if y'all vote yes, we can take the interest rate, the interest payments that we are making to New York banks to the tune of $300 million a year and give them to our teachers. Now, is that not checking all of the boxes that you want your government to do? Being efficient, being smart, making sure we're taking care of those that are taking care of us. And then we help our parish governments move away from the inventory tax. How many of y'all like the inventory tax? I hate it, and I've never paid it. Okay? But I can tell you this, it is one of the first topics of conversation of people who want to do business in the state of Louisiana, and the first thing they say, if y'all could get rid of that cumbersome inventory tax, it's terrible. But you know what? Here's the trick. Instead of doing what Baton Rouge used to do to our local governments and say, we're just going to take this away and you deal with the fallout, we have put in place a plan that allows them to work with us, that at the end of the day, our local governments get to raise revenue that they need to provide the services that you expect. Because for far too long, we've denied them that ability, which has really patched up and caused the patches that we have in our tax code. But I can tell you, you get rid of that inventory tax, we are rolling. You hear me? We are on the road to making Louisiana #1 in the South. And let me tell you what else it'll do. If you go out and vote for this amendment, you are now going to give us the precious time that we need in this next session to focus on further improving our tax policy, to work on real insurance reform. Okay? Wouldn't you like to see some insurance reform? To reorganize the Department of Transportation and Development. Y'all think it works well? Are y'all on the way? I'm like, how many of y'all think we should reform the department? How many of y'all think we can do a better job on our infrastructure? Huh? So, and many, many other things that we get to focus on. If you give us the flexibility to do that, and you give us that flexibility when you go vote, yes. And so I got to tell you, I don't know, maybe y'all ate too much. Did y'all eat yet? Listen, like, you should be excited. I'm telling you, like, this is the first time in a very long time where you will be able to travel around this country with a big smile on your face, because people will be like, my child's moving to Louisiana, not just to go see LSU, play football, or, or something else. Like, you are going to see people wanting to move into the state. You are going to see headlines in major publications. Look, we already saw it, the Meta Project. For the first time ever, Louisiana was awarded the Platinum Mega Project for the entire country. Like, I'm telling you, these are the things. It's unbelievable. And guess what? Guess what? We are going to be able to focus on the greatest natural resource this state has, which is you. Okay? Because that's what the president believes in Americans as well. He believes the greatest natural resource in this state, in this country, are our citizens. And I believe that the greatest natural resource in Louisiana are you all. And by helping us support that amendment and passing it, we get to focus on you. We get to make Louisiana an unbelievable place where you can work and play and raise a family, and you can be proud. And you can say, guess what? This was the time where we took Louisiana from the bottom to the top. God bless you. Thank you so very much.